Hmm.
Woohoo!
So in this last session we talked about various values from a conservative and liberal perspective. And one where we ended up was loyalty.
Yes.
And that seemed like that was actually pretty starkly different in the conservative mindset and the liberal mindset.
Yeah, which was surprising because because we had been going through values and it seems like they were pretty similar on both
Pretty
ends.
well aligned.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, boom, we hit loyalty, and it was like, it was almost like conservatives seem to value loyalty, and liberals almost seem to value shitting all over loyalty. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was almost like there's almost like a.
It's not even that they didn't value loyalty. It's like they
actually actively disregard it.
Yeah, they make a mockery of it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So to me, that's something that when you see something like that, right? Like, what I need to know what's going on there. I want to apply a few philosophical tools to the problem. Right? We're going to use some lenses essentially. And, we'll see if it can tease out some information for us or some theories or thoughts or whatever else. So the first is, I want to understand the scientific perspective on this.
Okay.
And that's going to involve something we call sociobiology. Right? And that is things that are passed down biologically that affect how you interact with others socially. Essentially, what sociobiology would ask is, how is loyalty valuable for the reproduction of your genes?
I think that looking at it from the reproduction standpoint, it would be...
Stepping back for a second, let's just make sure that we understand the kind of society that our bodies were evolved to.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And so we're talking really a tribal society. Not, modern America, right? We haven't evolved for that. We've evolved for a tribal society, right? Where there's essentially a strong leader of some sort, like a tribal leader, and then, a largely communal, sort of small, 100-person existence, 200-person existence maybe.
Well, in terms of reproduction, I could argue that loyalty would be beneficial in that point by finding one partner and then sticking to them. Not only so that you can your genes will be compatible with that partner, but also so that your partner can help raise the children. But then also I could argue that loyalty actually wouldn't be that great, because wouldn't it be more efficient biologically for reproduction if you just had babies with everyone?
Oh, well, so I think that you're actually pointing out something that just is, I think, an interesting tangent in this little conversation. And that is, I think that you might be right, that loyalty in terms of a reproductive strategy could be different for men and women.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And this is borne out, I think, in most, socio-biological studies. And that is that women definitely value loyalty more.
Yeah.
Because
you can only be... Because you get pregnant.
Well, because you're stuck with a child, for sure.
Yeah.
That's going to be your child. And so what you really need is someone who's going to stick around afterwards.
Yeah, in terms of the reproduction standpoint, we're talking about children here.
Yeah, of course.
So obviously it's better to be loyal.
And for guys, it seems like the strategy might be opposite.
Yeah.
Right? Being somewhat disloyal might be reproductively beneficial because you would be able to impregnate more women.
Yeah.
From a purely mass standpoint, that seems true, right? But I think that loyalty is valued in men as well.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a little less so. I think that men, have a reputation of being more promiscuous than women. But I still think that loyalty is something it's not like we think of loyalty as a feminine value.
No.
Right? Or a feminine virtue necessarily. Right? Loyalty is something that's, soldiers talk about that, right?
No. Well, yeah. We're talking purely biologically, and from one biological standpoint, like from reproduction back in tribal times, you're going to get a really different perspective than when you're looking at everyone today.
Right, well, sure. So, but how could loyalty be of benefit to men from a reproductive standpoint?
Yeah, being loyal for men in like tribal times, for the reproductive standpoint, it could have similar benefits from being loyal to a woman. That is, like, yeah, you could have a bunch of babies, but there's no guarantee that they're not just gonna all instantly die. Well, if you stick with one, and then you, like, start to raise that child, and you protect that child, and, like, teach them, and, like, lead them through life, then there's more guarantee that that kid is going to be alive to pass down their genes eventually.
Think about the real broader dynamics of social living. What's the most important thing for your survival if you live in a tribe?
Yeah, well, yeah, if we're talking in terms of survival, then loyalty is definitely important.
Right? It's important for your status in the tribe.
Yeah, because, like, if you're loyal to people in your tribe and you consistently defend them or take care of them, or like you're loyal to them, like you don't hurt them anyway, you don't value yourself far above others, then the tribe's going to respect you, the tribe's going to keep you in them, and you might, like, raise to a higher status, you might get higher benefits. But if you're disloyal and you're just generally, like, an asshole, and you, I don't know, like, you steal food from other people, or you don't work well with the community, then they could just kick you out.
So yeah, I think you can see that in a tribal existence, like, loyalty is pretty important.
Yeah.
In loyalty to your traditions and how your way of life, because, like, there were no books or anything.
No.
Right? There was no recording of how. Hey, there's no looking up on the internet. Best way to do whatever. Right? Yeah. You had to rely on the information passed down from your family and village.
Yeah, that was your only form of survival.
That was your only form of survival. It was essentially copying.
Yeah, in tribal times, like, all you have is your tribe. Like, there's no other tribe that you can go to. There's no chance of you being able to survive on your own, and there's no way to get other information out of you. So, like, loyalty is, like, not only your best bet, but, like, your only way of living.
Right. So I think that it makes sense that that biology would select both on men and women's sides us to value loyalty.
Yeah.
In each other. Let's take another lens, and that being the sort of social lens, and how it really happens in real life when you're actually getting raised and the like. So let's talk about the family.
Uh-huh.
Right? Like, what about loyalty and how it's valued in the family and how it affects your position in the family?
Yeah, loyalty in terms of, like, the smaller modern family is interesting because, like, you do always hear stories of, like, the teenage rebellion and stuff, but in general, like, the people that raised you, you're going to stay, like, reasonably loyal to them, and then, like, when you start to explore yourself and yourself outside of that family, and you stop being so loyal, you're gonna be, like, not necessarily, like, punished in terms of, like, actual punishment, although, like depending on, like, the actions you take, it could be, but you're gonna be punished in terms of not being respected as much in the family.
I think that's a common dynamic in families. Right, is the teenage years in particular, the child sort of establishes something contrarian to the parent, and the parent doesn't like that, but in some way that helps the teenager establish their own identity. Yeah,
like, the teenage rebellion is so common is because that's when, like, you're like in puberty, you're actually maturing as a person, and you're discovering, like, how you can exist outside of the family, and it's a really important step in development for actually eventually existing outside of that family.
Yeah, there was actually a school of psychology that was of the opinion that sort of being the perfect parent was sort of suboptimal for the child because they would never have that moment of full disengagement. Mm-hmm. And then therefore develop their own personality in a really strong way.
No offense to that psychology study.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that being too good of the parent is like the best parenting mistake that you could ever
Yeah, right. I think that you can probably, if that's the biggest one that you make, then
I think there's a way to solve that.
Yeah, I think that's probably okay. I think that loyalty is valued differently in different families.
Yeah, sure.
So I guess if I were looking at the scale of loyal children, I would put you and Rex possibly on the medium to low loyalty children spectrum.
No, I would say Rex is pretty loyal.
You think Rex is relatively loyal? Oh, yeah, I would put Rex a little higher than you for sure. So I think different families, different parents value loyalty differently, and then I think that in children value loyalty differently.
Yes.
What is that? Can you explain that at all?
Generally, when like you're raised with a value being very important, then you take that value as your own because that's all you know. Like that's what you're raised to believe. But loyalty can kind of have the contradictory effect because when your parents don't value loyalty at all, you're unlikely to value loyalty too. But when they value loyalty too much, like when you have really strict parents, then generally it becomes stifling for the child, and they have to find a way to escape, even though that's all they've been raised for. And so they can end up even more rebellious than like a child raised by like way less loyal parents.
Well, I think that's an interesting psychological analysis of how loyalty sort of has this self-regulating function. If a parent or an authority figure demands too much loyalty, it begins to feel, to most human beings, there's a certain threshold at which it's like, nope, not interested.
Yeah.
I think the important point here is that that loyalty can be passed down not only genetically, presumably, but also socially.
Yeah.
Can you describe being loyal?
Well, I wouldn't describe myself as like the most loyal person, especially in comparisons of Rex. But when I feel loyalty, I feel like I care about that person, like I'd protect that person, but like ultimately, I think it's that like I trust that person.
It's beyond trust almost though.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you can trust someone and not lend fealty to them.
Yeah, it's like beyond trust. It's like, well, like you can be loyal to someone and not like feel like you can feel loyalty at like different levels.
Yeah, of course.
But like at a deep level of loyalty is like beyond trust. It's like in your heart feeling like this person is like worth it, you know?
I almost feel like there's a sense of identification with that person. They are as important as you yourself are.
Yeah. Biologically, I think it's difficult for people to be as important as like you yourself. But yeah, they're definitely not only they're like as important or almost as important as you yourself to you like psychologically.
Yeah.
They also feel like a part of you, as in like their actions define you. Their like thoughts and feelings are your thoughts and feelings. Like you almost feel like they're an extension of you or you're an extension of them.
Yeah, no, and that's why I use the word identity. Like a loyal child identifies with a father, in a very close way.
Yeah.
In some level, and I think you came close to using this word, it feels like love. Right? Like it's an affection.
Yeah.
I guess like you're on my team and it doesn't matter. Yeah. Whether you're right or wrong or whatever.
Yeah, like you're on my team.
And that's why I meant almost the identity. You know what I mean? It's like there's only one other person who gets that privilege, and that's you, right? Mm-hmm. Loyalty is really bringing someone into that protected circle where the commitment to them means more than who they may ultimately be. Yeah.
It's not like saying that they have no faults. Like it might blind you a little bit from like their some of their flaws, but it's not that they don't have any faults. Is that even throughout their faults and even with their faults, throughout it all, no matter like what they do or what they say, you care about them and they are a part of you, and you will like protect them through it. You'll stand by them throughout it all.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's, that's how it feels. I think we've gotten into loyalty a little bit from a few different perspectives.
Yeah.
Let's go back to one of our earlier lessons and talk about something that we learned about epistemology, or why we believe what we believe. We came to the conclusion when we were talking then that the world's too complicated to fully understand yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and really always has been to some degree. So that our beliefs are based more on trust than they are on some sort of scientific investigation we've done on our own. So I guess the question then becomes, loyalty, because it is this intense, all-trumping, trust-based relationship, it naturally could and does, for human beings, serve as a basis or a foundation of a person's beliefs.
Yeah.
Is loyalty a good basis for knowledge?
There's definitely something to be said about loyalty and passing traditions down. I don't think it's a bad thing to have old family traditions that are passed down, even if they involve, like, beliefs. But I also think that basing your beliefs on loyalty is not a good thing. You can take those beliefs into you, and nothing about loyalty or lack thereof, like, makes those beliefs inherently a bad thing. But you need to look at your beliefs not through the perspective of who told them, but what they are. Like, you can't base your beliefs on loyalty, because ultimately that loyalty is completely irrelevant to what those beliefs actually are. And what those beliefs actually are is how they're going to be affecting you and your perspective of the world and other people.
It almost seems like the virtue of loyalty is in some ways counter to an open exploration of your universe.
Yeah.
And therefore you find it an inferior truth, belief, identification strategy.
I don't think loyalty as a whole is a negative trait. I think that loyalty has its uses, and it's a good thing to have someone that you're loyal to and that's loyal to you, and that you have, like, this foundation of trust with. Not only, like, biologically in terms of survival or, like, psychologically or, like, any of those things, but, like, because it feels good to have a friend or a parent that loyalty is shared with. But just because loyalty can be a good thing in terms of emotions doesn't mean that it can transfer over as a reliable source for information. Because beliefs and the way you hold them can be very emotion-based. But that's not a good way for figuring out what beliefs are true or not. So is loyalty a bad thing? No, not necessarily, as long as you don't bring it to the ridiculous extremes that, like, a like intensely over strict parent might bring it to. But loyalty isn't a good thing to base your beliefs off of. No.
Well, and I think that the value of loyalty in terms of defining beliefs has eroded very quickly over the last couple hundred years. When the sum total of knowledge that you were going to get came from your tribe anyway, being loyal to those beliefs and those traditions was probably good.
Yeah.
But over the last couple hundred years, obviously, knowledge has become a global pursuit rather than a tribal pursuit. And as we discussed earlier, a lot of our families come from traditions that were created at a time when we really didn't understand the universe very much at all. And so it's kind of weird. We're almost in this weird epoch, as I said before, right? Where there's traditions that are alive and that people want to feel loyal to, but they aren't the best descriptions of the universe we have anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a tough time for loyal people. It's a tough time to be loyal and a truth seeker. Like, do you think that's all? Do you think that what we're talking, like what we're talking about right now, is like that's like it's kind of true?
Yeah, it almost seems like overly self-important to imply that like the time when we're living specifically is the time when like there's going to be a turning point in humanity. But like in a way, you can kind of see how like there's so much happening right now, and it's all happening so quickly. And like the way that people live is changing so drastically. I don't think it's that ridiculous to say that this is going to be an important point in human history.
We hope that you enjoyed that video, and if you did, please consider checking out the next one in the series.
Or some of our other series on philosophy and life.
We upload videos every Friday, so don't forget to like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. See you next week.